No farmland around here, and then there's this. This is a good camera. Demas has it. Our camp up at night, we're getting a fire started at night. Despite the fact that there's a... Yeah, see, now just keep hitting that hard. Give it oxygen here, the thing's hungry. How's it going, guys? John 14.6 Bushcraft. I had an idea. I wanted to show you guys some camp tricks. I'm gonna call this video camp tricks. I want to show, it's been raining for 2 days straight, so if you see all this wood here, this is, the majority of this is maple, and I'm pretty sure all the wood I picked out was maple. It's been raining for 2 days straight. Everything is wet. The inside of this wood is obviously dry, but I want to show you little camp tricks with just a knife, and the camp tricks are going to be for fire and woodworking. So first off, I want to talk about, I want to pretty much imitate me being in a real situation and having to get a fire started with all this wet wood. So this is what I would do. I would find a piece of wood and I would get down to the dry stuff of it. Okay, and now this is all going to be done with just a knife. If you have a knife with a really sharp spine, which I prefer, you can strike ferro rods really easily with it, but you can also do this. Poncho! He's got my stick, I have to get that later. You just go like this. This would be the first step. If you can't find dry grass, which after it's been raining like this, it's going to be a little bit hard to find dry grass unless you're in pine forest and you find some old man's beard, moss type stuff in a tree or something, but this is what you would do. You just go like that, you see all the shavings coming off? It's kind of like making a feather stick, but it's a lot finer. You just chop that off. You just keep doing that. You chop that off. So this is going to be the first step of the fire, which would be getting the fire lit. And again, if you can't find dry grass and you don't have a ferro rod, you could bow drill. You'd have to get a lot more of this stuff, but you'd get a pile of this, bow drill, put a coal in there, you know, and just give it oxygen and you can get it lit up that way. But if you do have a ferro rod, you can just make this pile and strike it and it should light. So the next step, you have your first stage of your fire, of making your fire. The next step is feather sticks. And I'm going to show you how I like to do mine. This is going to be with just this one stick. I like to shave, and with a real sharp knife you can just barely touch it and get really fine shavings like that. This is the second stage, which is a little bit thicker, a lot thicker than this stuff actually. So you just get that, and then you would just cut that off. There's a feather stick. And you could do that again. And the point of feather sticks obviously is so you get more surface area, but everything's fibrous and it's gonna light a lot easier. And there's another feather stick. So this is the second stage of the fire. Now, the next stage that I would do is I can use this same stick. This is called stab splitting. Let's see if I can do it with this. Just put your knife right here, twist it. You got that? And that's why I like a stout 3/16 inch thick knife, because you can do this type of stuff without worrying about anything happening with your knife. And you can do that down as far as you need to do, which you'd probably need to go a little bit, one more like this probably. Here would be your next stage of fire. And it's been raining for 2 days straight, and the inside of this wood is still dry. You can let him take that. I'm actually not using that one. Where'd that come from?
I don't know.
So, there would be the next stage. And the point of... I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so this is the fire. That's what you need. There's your fire with just a knife, everything soaking wet, and the rules still apply with everything dry. You can still use this technique, obviously. So there's that, and now you need the next stage of wood. We have that, which is gonna burn not too long, so you're gonna need something a little bit thicker to help you get burning, so you can throw bigger logs on top of it without worrying about it. So a rule with batoning, I don't like to baton anything that is thicker than half of the cutting edge on the knife. So this knife is almost 4 inches, so anything more than 2 inches I wouldn't want to use. So this log is perfect for this knife. And some people chop, that dulls your blade. I don't like to. I will sometimes, especially when I'm testing a blade, but I don't like to. Preferably when you're chopping through against the grain like this, it's good to go diagonally. And a rule with that, some people hit like the end of your knife, and that's not good to do, especially when you're batoning against the grain like this, because you got force, downward force on your hand on this side of the blade, and you got downward force on this side where you're hitting it. So there's upward force right in the middle because you're batoning through this. So when you're going straight down on something, you want to hit right above the wood on that knife, so you're not abusing your knife too bad. And that's just good to do with your knives, because you don't want something happening to your knife, you know. That's your main tool. So I would just do this all the way around, kind of notch it at a diagonal angle because it cuts through better. Watch out, gosh. Oh, dude, that dog, you guys, oh my gosh. Gotta do that again. And then once, I could probably break it right now, it'd be a little hard though, so I'm gonna do one more. Just in my dad's backyard right now, doing this stuff. I thought it'd be a good time to get this video done. Okay, we got that. Now we got this. There's a knot right there, but that's not too big of a problem. Now, here's where that rule applies again. You want to leave a lot sticking out, so you want your cutting edge to just barely be sticking out on the hand side of where you're batoning with your knife. And when you first start, a lot of people go down on this side, but yeah, a lot of knives will do it. I've never broken a knife by doing that, but again, you have 3 different pressure points. You got downward force on your handle, downward force on the tip of your blade, and upward force in the middle. So it can snap depending on the knife you have. I've never had one do that, but it's a possibility. So especially when you start it, you just go right down the top until you can't make it go down no more. Then you hit the blade, and that way you already got a wedge started, so it's not hurting your blade. But when you start like this and hit it on the side, then you don't have any start through the blade, and plus you got the opposing forces, which isn't good. So you go right down, which I didn't have it sticking out on this side. The handle was trying to go through it. Just go like that. Now you hit the tip, and then you got that. And here's your last stage of wood. Would be right here. All the way straight above the wood, and now I hit the tip. And you shouldn't have to hit your handle. If you're pushing down hard enough with your left hand, you shouldn't have to hit your handle. It should go down with ease, just like that. And this is all, I think I mentioned it, this is all maple wood, which is pretty tough. So there's your last stage. And a lot of people sit there and they'll baton like huge pieces of wood to where the tip of their blade is just barely sticking out of the wood. But you don't need to do that because, I mean, once you got this, your fire is big enough to where you can literally throw a log like this on it, even when it's wet, and it will eventually start catching it fire. It'll dry it out and then it'll start burning it. And it's not necessary to chop a piece of wood like that. You know, if you got a good fire going with this stuff, you can get a good hot fire going long enough, hot enough to where you can just start throwing stuff on top of it. Now the last thing I want to do, there's fire, and that also had to do with woodworking. Let me get it over here. Here is how you can make a pot hanger. And here's another thing I like to do. If you don't like to baton, if you need really precise cuts, you can just go like this. Kind of like when I baton that big piece, but you're just doing it by hand. And you notch all the way around it. This wood's really slippery, so it's kind of hard for me to hold it. Just go like that, and you come back around like this. This blade is really great. I'm gonna do a review on it soon. I think I found everything I've been looking for when it comes to a do-it-all belt knife bushcraft blade, you know. It meets my preference, but also meets the criteria of a good survival bushcraft knife. And then once you got that, you can just usually snap it. Okay. Now, to make a pot hanger, wash this when I get home. You kind of just baton an X right here. Then you go the other way like this. And again, I'm going straight down above the wood, not at the end, because I don't want that differential, the differential pressures. Okay. Now that you got that X, you want to cut on the long side because you want your pot to hang like this, like that. So what you do, you just cut like that. I'm going to show you how to make something else out of this pot hanger too. You can use it as this thing I'm going to show you, or you can keep it as a pot hanger and you can leave it the same pretty much. See? So, just like this, you have a pot hanger. Okay, I'll build the rest of it, and I'll build that right now. If you see, I just cut an X, and I cut all the way around it, and you can also make a little divot right in there so your pot doesn't come sliding out or something. Like that. Now what you would do is you would get, my dog took off with my brother's dog. So I'm gonna get something else here. Do you know where that stick one is there? Where he took the other one, the really long one. Okay, well he took off with that. So here is this. Here's another trick especially with live saplings. You can bend it and then cut it, and it kind of snaps like that. Okay. Now what you do is you cut a flat. You need this to be flat right here. Okay. And you would set up something like this at your camp to where it would hold your stick right here. And with your pot hanger, on either side you could do this, but you would take your baton, which he just freaking took, didn't he?
No, that's not your baton.
Where's it at? Here it is. You take this and just do a straight notch across the wood. And then you would just kind of do the same thing. Kind of like a deadfall trap or something like that. And then you take your stick here, and say your fire's right down there. You hang your pot right on that. You got a pot hanger, so you can hang your pot right above your fire. And now, another thing you can do with this, and you can also leave it a pot hanger, you would take the end and you would carve a spike on it. And whenever you carve a spear or a spike, a lot of people carve all the way around it and make the point in the middle of the wood, but that's not the sturdiest spear you can make. The sturdiest is to have the spike right on the edge, so you would just carve it like this, because the inner wood is softer and it's just not as sturdy. I don't know exactly why, but I know that because the inner wood is softer, it's not going to be as sturdy. Okay, I got a spike like that. See how it's on the outside? The spike, that's going to be a lot more sturdy, and you can heat that up in the fire and make it a lot tougher. So, you got that, and now what you would do with this pot hanger is you would make it more, you would exaggerate that spike a lot more. So I'm going to do something here. Kind of go at an angle up. And I would cut into it. And I'm going to cut in just like that, so it's really exaggerated in there. I'm going to dig my knife in, and I want to get all that meat out. I love these convex edges. They're not prone to chipping that much. Almost done with it. Now I just gotta really get that meat out. I'm getting it. There. Now, you see how that's really exaggerated? You can use it for a pot hanger still. You see this? Make sure this is straight. You still got a pot hanger, but your pot hanger has a really exaggerated hook right there and a spike at the top. But you got your pot hanger, and you also have, for your tarps or anything, a lot of people will build a stake and they'll just find something like this kind of that will fit through a grommet and just shove it in there. But this is a lot better because you can get a stouter stick and it'll hook your grommet into the ground. Poncho, get out of here, please. And also, if you take the top, kind of go like that, it helps when you hit it that the material doesn't flare out. Hey, I got it. Poncho, get out of here, man. Okay. See, just like that. You got your tent or your tarp grommet right here. You just kind of go like this. Well, that sucks. Anyways, you guys see where I was getting at. You can get a shorter one so you don't have to hit it so hard to get it in, and you can get it out easier. But see, just like that, you put your grommet right under that hook and just pound it in, and it'll hold your tarp right in the dirt. And you can just kind of wiggle it out to pull it out, and you could build several of these, and they also double as pot hangers. So that is it right there. I hope you guys enjoyed it. That's camp tips, fire, and pot hanger plus tent stake in really wet conditions. But like I said, you can also do it in dry conditions, obviously. And that's my opinion on batoning. This is really all you should need to baton for. Once you get a fire going with this size of wood, you can throw anything on there. I've done it easily with wood that has been out in the rain for days. This stuff has been out in the rain for days, and the inside is totally dry still. So that's what I think about that. So I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll catch you next time.